Okay, so did you know that Cranky Kong from Donkey Kong Country is actually the original Donkey Kong from the old arcade game? Or at least that seems to be the consensus on the origins of this elderly ape. This just seems to be a widely regarded fact among Nintendo fans that doesn't really get questioned. And there's merit for it, don't get me wrong. This wasn't just pulled out of someone's ass. But I gotta say, the whole Cranky Kong is the original Donkey Kong thing is something that I haven't been too sure of for quite a while now. And even more so now after a recent video from Nintendo. So I'm gonna be a rebel here, and I'm going to question this. And first of all, I just have to say the obvious thing, and that's if Donkey Kong aged to this old gray-haired gorilla, then why does Mario still look like Mario? Mario should look like this. But he doesn't. That's always bugged me, like, from the very beginning. I just wanted to get that out of the way first because, like, why has no one questioned that? It bugs me. But yeah, obviously I have more to say about this topic. So obviously I have to mention the original source itself. And yeah, I acknowledge, it is right there in the Donkey Kong Country instruction manual. It says Cranky was the original Donkey Kong right there. And that is an official source, so yeah. I just want to make sure that I very clearly communicate that I acknowledge this. Not to mention the opening of the game itself where Cranky's on the old Donkey Kong platform, which seems to imply that, yeah, he was the old Donkey Kong. And I think this was even mentioned in other sources back in the day, like the original Donkey Kong Country website from the 90s, but I can't find it archived anywhere, so I'm not sure on that. This also gives the implication that the current modern Donkey Kong is the son of Donkey Kong Jr., and where's he? Where'd he go? But that's getting way off topic, so I'm not gonna go there right now. But anyway, yeah. Cranky Kong being the original Donkey Kong was clearly what Rare intended to be his backstory. Although, and this is just speculation on my part, I don't think Nintendo was ever fully on board with this. There really wasn't much Donkey Kong lore at that point in the early 90s, so when Rare was making Donkey Kong Country, I think Nintendo just kind of gave them the keys to the series, and when they made stuff like DK Island and the whole Kong family, Nintendo was like, yeah, that's cool. And most of the stuff became staples of the series that they've carried over, even years after the partnership with Rare ended. But one thing Nintendo has not seemed to embrace is, as you can guess, the whole Cranky Kong being the original Donkey Kong thing. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen Nintendo themselves actually acknowledge it. Yeah, I mean, I welcome anyone to correct me if I'm wrong here, but I just don't see any evidence at all of Nintendo referencing Cranky Kong being the original Donkey Kong after Rare stopped making the Donkey Kong games. And to be fair, there really wasn't much Donkey Kong related stuff after Donkey Kong 64 for a while. But then in 2004 came, and this is one of the big pieces of my argument, Mario vs. Donkey Kong for the Game Boy Advance. Nintendo really promoted this game as reviving the old rivalry, and would you look at that, they're using the current modern Donkey Kong design. I hate to admit this because it kind of makes me feel like a bad Nintendo fan, but I actually haven't played much of these games. So I can't say for sure if it references Donkey Kong being the grandson of the original Donkey Kong or whatever. To my knowledge, though, it does not. Yeah, and if you look at other official sources from Nintendo, like Smash Bros. Trophies, for example, yeah, it just kinda points out his traits, but no mention of being the original Donkey Kong. And in more recent years, Nintendo has just really embraced making Cranky Kong his own character instead of just a relic from the past, and I think that's pretty cool. They even made him a playable character in Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. I mean, I'd still prefer to play as Diddy Kong or Dixie Kong, but it's cool that he's there. So now I'm gonna bring up probably my biggest piece of evidence against Cranky Kong being the original Donkey Kong, and it was kind of what mostly gave me inspiration for this video in the first place. And this comes in the form of a YouTube video that Nintendo just recently put out. In this video, the legend himself, Shigeru Miyamoto, shows off the Donkey Kong Country expansion at the Super Nintendo World theme park. It looks really cool and I really hope to go there someday, but anyway. In this video, he straight up says that Donkey Kong started out in the arcade and continued to evolve over the years. And he clearly states that he started out as 2D pixels, followed by pre-rendered visuals on the Super NES, then evolved into 3D on the Nintendo 64, so clearly he's talking about the same character in all of this. I mean, if that doesn't scream this has been the same character all along, then I don't know what does. And this is coming from the man who created Donkey Kong himself, so I think I'm gonna trust his words here. Okay, I know I said this was off topic earlier, but it's gonna bug me, so I have to bring it up again. And that's just, what's the deal with Donkey Kong Jr.? Because this situation is kind of messy either way. So like, if Cranky Kong is the original Donkey Kong, then that would mean his son is Donkey Kong Jr., and Donkey Kong Jr.'s son is the modern Donkey Kong. So like, why haven't we seen him in any of the Donkey Kong Country games? Where did he go? What's he doing? Does he still go by Junior? We've seen him come around for go-karting and tennis with Mario and his friends. So he can be bothered to do that, but he can't be bothered to visit with his son/dad. What a jerk. Okay, I know this isn't entirely relevant to my topic here, but I kept thinking about it while I was making this video and I just had to bring it up. It was gonna bug me if I didn't talk about it at least a little bit. I've probably made my stance pretty clear by now, but I'll go ahead and state that despite being widely accepted as a fact across the internet, I don't think that Cranky Kong is the original Donkey Kong. I think Donkey Kong is Donkey Kong and he's just evolved like other video game characters have. I think it was totally Rare's intention for Cranky Kong to be the original Donkey Kong, but that's not really their choice, and Nintendo doesn't seem to acknowledge it, so even if it was true, I think it's been retconned and is not true currently. With that being said though, that's just my take, and if you're someone who does think that Cranky Kong is the original Donkey Kong, I'm not gonna say you're wrong. I mean, it says it right in the Donkey Kong Country instruction manual, so it does come from an official source. And like I said, it does seem to be a widely regarded fact. I just don't know why I haven't seen this questioned more, and I wanted to question it myself. I mean, I don't think it really makes a big difference in the grand scheme of things, but it's still a topic worth discussing. I guess when it comes down to it, unless Nintendo makes an official statement either way, it's kind of a case of Schrodinger's cat, or Schrodinger's Kong if you will, where Cranky Kong both is and isn't the original Donkey Kong. And there's not necessarily a right or wrong, it's just what you choose to perceive. That's my take anyway. I myself think that the current Donkey Kong is still the original Donkey Kong from the arcade game, and he just happens to have a grandpa named Cranky Kong. And Cranky Kong is not that original Donkey Kong. And I'll bring up again that if Cranky Kong were the original Donkey Kong, then why doesn't Mario look super old? Or Pauline too, I forgot to mention her, but yeah, she still looks the same. She looks like she hasn't aged. Okay, I'm done making my point now. And again, I don't think that anyone who disagrees with this is wrong. If you disagree with me, then hey, tell me why in the comments. I'd love to hear your reasoning. So that about wraps up my thoughts on this topic. I appreciate you listening to this very important discussion about the ancestry of cartoon apes. As always, I'd like to hear what you think, so feel free to leave some feedback in the comments. Have I got you second guessing something that you've always kind of just accepted as a fact? Or do you think I'm just a big weirdo for questioning something that's been widely agreed upon among Nintendo fans? Also, if you have any theories for what's going on with Donkey Kong Jr., please let me know because that's still bugging me. Well anyway, thank you again for watching. You are awesome and I appreciate you. I hope you have a hat-stacking good day.